Hello again, and welcome back to another episode of Better Sounding Games. You guys seem to really like the last episode, so hopefully I can come up with a few more ideas for these episodes and keep them coming. Apologies for the little wait between these two episodes, but I finally got around to it. Today we're going to be talking about the relationship between audio and gameplay, right? More specifically, what the audio is sort of communicating to the player mechanically, what's sort of going on in the game and how they can, react to what the audio is telling them, okay? Which I've got a few examples to show you, just like last time. We'll run through a few games and talk about what they do well with this sort of concept. I need a name for this, really. I don't really have one. But yeah, to sum up, we're talking about what audio tells the player mechanically, okay? Which could be really important. It, for one, will portray the player with a certain amount of information, which is good because sometimes a lot of information is mainly communicated to the player via the visuals or maybe some, dialogue, or not dialogue, text on screen for a tutorial, which is fine. But with audio, you've got this whole sort of realm of, sound basically. You can use sound to sort of tell your players what they can do or what's about to happen in the game. So you might as well, right? Instead of overloading them with, so much information through only text or only gameplay or only visuals, So it's another avenue of helping the player interact with the game, essentially. Another great reason why this is important is because it's going to help engage the player more. If they've got to concentrate on both the sound and the visuals, that's going to help really focus it and help draw them into the world that surrounds them. So, without any further ado, let's jump into some gameplay examples. As you can see here, I've been playing God of War, and for the record, I've been playing it way too much. When it came out, I must have binged it for 2 days straight. But I've been playing a lot of this, and I've been obviously paying attention to a lot of what the audio does. And there's actually a couple of examples that gave me the idea for this video that I thought I'd start us off with. Which, by the way, there won't be any major sort of plot points within this video of God of War, but if you are trying to avoid spoilers, probably don't watch this video, just give it a miss, or skip it, the God of War bit, it's not too long, and go play it yourself because it's amazing. But yeah, let's jump into the first example. So the first example involves the character of Atreus. What he'll actually do is, whilst you're in combat, he will not only help you by shooting enemies, but he'll also call out any directions that the enemies are going to attack you from. There is also an arrow system that tells you where these attacks from. But like I said earlier, because there's so much going on screen, using that extra sense of sound to help tell the player, oh, you're about to get attacked from the left, helps out a great deal and makes it a lot easier for you to interpret oncoming attacks. Maybe just ignore that last one where I totally didn't get hit by the wolf. Yeah. The other example I found is quite a common one with most games. So like most open world games, this game has collectibles. And one way to help you find specific collectibles is with sound. Say you're running through an area and you hear a specific sound, that's going to tell you that there's a collectible nearby and you need to start looking. In this game, they have ravens sent by Odin himself to spy on Kratos, apparently. And they make this specific noise. So again, it also means that the player's not only engaged within the game and within the sound as well as the visuals, they're actively keeping an ear out for these collectibles as well as just using their eyes to find them. This next thing isn't an example, it's just a funny thing I found. The AI for Atreus wandered into a cave, triggering a reverb zone, but only for his character, so this happened.
Where'd you learn how to do that, Sindri?
Well, after Brock and I parted ways, I undertook some study in Vanaheim.
Just thought it was funny the way it only happened to his character and not the other one. But anyway, that's the examples I've found from God of War. The next game is... It's Fortnite! Don't know why I did that. Now, the reason why I brought up Fortnite, other than the fact it's a crazy fun game and half the world's playing it right now, is I think the sound in it gets kind of overlooked, especially in terms of how good it is. I think when designing it, they've gone for a practical approach than most games, possibly because it's, a massive multiplayer game, but With a lot of games, what they'll do with the audio is, well, what they won't do is sort of focus on including a lot of dynamic range, depending on the game, of course. Maybe a horror game they might. But I think the reason why they keep things quite compressed is so that you can constantly hear a lot of detail and you feel like, you know, there's a lot going on within the world. But with Fortnite, when it's quiet, and you notice that it's quiet. There's not a lot going on. And when it's loud, you notice it's loud, and you notice there's a lot going on. And I think the reason why is because a lot of the audio serves a role, like we've been talking about earlier. It communicates a mechanic to the player, so you need to be able to hear specific sounds. You know, if it was loud and bombastic constantly, you'd miss a lot of that and maybe struggle to play the game a bit. The first example I've got of this is the chests. And they work similarly to how the Ravens worked in God of War, by sending out a sound. That helps the player find them and get the good loot from them, essentially, because a lot of these chests are very well hidden. And you'll find yourself as you play the game, not necessarily looking on screen for where they are. You'll be listening and following the location of them. This can also be applied to the storm that chases down the players if they spend too long in a specific area. Where we were trying to find chests earlier, we're now trying to avoid the storm, so whenever we hear the sound of it, we want to stay away from it rather than go towards it. Some of the guns in Fortnite will actually warn the player if they're about to run out of ammo and need to reload via sound. They'll start to add a clicking sound as the gun shoots, which is great when a player's in the middle of a gunfight and has run in without enough bullets in the clip. All of this is great, but I think one of the most important sounds in the game is footsteps by far, and the reason why is because it can actually tell you if an enemy is near you. If you've got stereo or even surround sound set up, sometimes you can even hear the direction of them, which is very valuable. Oftentimes if you're playing with friends, you'll hear footsteps that sound like this. But if an enemy's nearby, you'll hear footsteps that sound like this. So what they've done is they've made friendly footsteps sound sort of hearable, but not too loud, but enemy footsteps are really clear, especially even through walls. They sound really prominent. Hopefully that was a good example, by the way. It was really hard to actually get some enemy footstep sounds, you know, just the footstep sounds without the enemy trying to shoot me down. Yeah, like that. A few quick bonus examples for you now. This is Subnautica, a really amazing survival game. And it does a similar thing to Fortnite. It will actually tell the player if they're near any monsters that they'll want to avoid. For example, there's these creatures called I think they're called Leviathans, and they'll give out this menacing roar if you get too close to them, like I did. On a side note, Subnautica does a lot of things right, but one thing it really does right is create really good atmosphere and changes in atmosphere as well. And I think the audio helps a lot with that, as you've just heard. Jesus Christ, that was horrible. Sonic games have always told that the player is about to drown by using music, actually. If you spend too long in water, not only will you see a numerical timer, but you'll also hear this really, again, menacing music. It's really dramatic. It speeds up in tempo to really panic you and want you to get out of the water. But in my opinion, to be fair, I don't think they even needed the numerical counter. I think they could have got away with just using the music. Because once it kicks in, you know you know you're in trouble and you know you need to get out of the water. But it also gives you that sense of time, thanks to the speed up in tempo. You know, the faster it gets, you know you're getting less and less time to get out of there. Pokemon games have always had a method of telling the exact same thing to the player. when they're in trouble and when their health's low and they need to, you know, change their game up if they want to keep going. Whenever one of your Pokemon's health gets to a certain amount, I think it's like 25% health, you'll hear a bleep. Pretty simple, you know, it reminds you that, hey, you're about to lose if you get hit again, you might want to heal up on something. And I think in the newer games they've actually kind of cut it down a bit so it doesn't just continuously beep, because, well, my guess is it got a little bit annoying, but it definitely does the job. It tells the player, hey, you're in trouble, you need to change your game plan up a bit here. And with that, I think that wraps it up. That's all the examples I've got to show anyway. I feel like we touched on quite a nice balance. We had dialogue, we had music, and we had sound effects, all of which were telling the player in different, you know, scenarios information they needed or, you know, could benefit from to play the game with. Cool. So, thank you very much for watching, guys. This has been really fun doing another one of these. For any of you who are interested in the FMOD and Unity tutorials, don't worry, I haven't stopped doing them. They are going to come back. I've actually got a few planned because a lot of you guys have been throwing some suggestions at me, so massive thanks for all of that. Yeah, and I'll try and start them as soon as possible. But for now, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.